Live, please, Ryan. Yep, there we go. Justin, thank you. This is the Baltimore County delegation meeting. We are going to start with a presentation from Baltimore County Libraries. I see a number of names I recognize, but the name at the top is Sonia Alcantara Antoine, who we also saw in session earlier this week on Library Day. It was a pleasure to have her there. And she's going to give us a little information about what's going on at the library, and we'll have a little time for questions afterwards. Miss Antoine.
Thank you, Delegate Ebersol, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today here as your special guest. I feel honored. I am the CEO of Baltimore County Public Library. I'm also the president-elect of the Public Library Association, which represents over 9,000 public libraries throughout the United States and Canada. So I am just thrilled to be here. Wednesday was Maryland Library Legislative Day. So we had a contingent of 14 people from Baltimore County Public Library, including myself and 2 board members. They met with most, if not all of you and your staff. So thank you for meeting with us and talking about all the wonderful things that we're doing in Baltimore County Public Library. The last time I was here last year, I talked extensively about all the ways that Baltimore County Public Library is serving its community. And we've provided you with a flyer today to kind of update you on all the things that we've got going on, all of our social workers, our mobile library law center, all the wonderful innovative ways that we're engaging with our community. Today, I want to focus on our facilities. And I'm going to share my screen. If you'll just bear with me.
Somebody's talking.
I just remind everyone that you double check if you're on mute, please.
Can you guys see that? Yes? Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right, so this has been a large part of our focus. And when we were here in Annapolis for Maryland Library Legislative Day, we were talking a lot about our capital projects and all the things that we've got going on in Baltimore County to make sure that we have 21st century facilities. So as a reminder, we have 19 branches throughout Baltimore County. The average age of our facility is 50. So if you think about all the innovations in life, in work, and in school that have happened over the past 50 years, our libraries were built at a time before many of those innovations took place. A really basic example is most of our branches don't even have enough electrical outlets because they were built at a time before there was internet, computers, personal devices. So our focus is very much about updating our facilities. Total square feet, we have about 450,000 square feet of public library space in Baltimore County. The state guideline is that you should have 1 square foot of public library space per capita. So we're about half that. So there is an opportunity for us to have larger facilities and in the future, possibly additional facilities so that we are adequately serving the needs of everybody in Baltimore County. I like to say that in libraries, we are books, technology, and beyond. We do so much more than providing books. It's a big core of what we do, but increasingly libraries are community hubs where transformation happens. And if you look at the list of all the features that exist within a 21st century library, you can see that libraries have been evolving and continually evolving to serve the needs of its 21st century community. I hope you guys get access to this PowerPoint after I'm done. This right here is a video reel that we did where we went to some really incredible 21st century library facilities that are cropping up around the state in Montgomery County, in Prince George's County, in Cecil County, in Howard County. And I hate to say it, but we don't have anything that looks close to anything that we're seeing around the state. And we would love to be able to have similar facilities here in Baltimore County. On the House floor, Delegate Ebersol listed all the wonderful things that we're doing in libraries. And to be able to do all of those services, all of those innovative services, we do need up-to-date modern facilities that can accommodate all of those activities. I want to kind of highlight some of the recent improvements that we made in our facilities, but then also talk about future needs. Our Hereford branch was a branch renovation that we did in 2016. It features the Hive, which is an interactive, dynamic space where people can create art, but also display art. The Hive and the Hereford branch typically has an artist in residence where they will spend some time at the library doing their art, but then also showing members of the community how to do that art. And it's a very unique feature in Baltimore County Public Library System. We don't have anything like that. And it's all happening at the Hive here in Hereford, excuse me. And then our most recent renovation was our Reisterstown branch, where we had, we did a renovation and a full expansion. And that happened last year. And people are delighted when they come back and they see the Reisterstown branch. The Reisterstown branch is our oldest facility. At 202 years old, it was in desperate need of some revitalization and some reimagining. And when we did that, people were just bowled over at just how beautiful the branch is. We added a preservation station in there so people can digitize all of their photos and old videos. We have a local history room and nod to the fact that Reisterstown is a very historic part of our community. We have, we enclosed the courtyard, which added 1,000 square feet to the building. We have a dedicated teen space. The library is within walking distance of a couple of schools. So every day after school, it's the place where kids want to be. And so we did all of that, and we're just really pleased with the renovation. We've also, over the last couple of years, made a lot of small improvements. We got a $1.1 million bequest, and we were able to take that money and make significant improvements at nearly every branch in the library system. And, you know, everybody in the community, regardless of what zip code you live in, regardless of what district you live in, regardless of how much money you have in your pocket, everybody deserves a modern library that's clean, that's safe, that's inviting, that's interactive, that's functional. And when we make capital investments in our facilities, big or small, people notice it and they appreciate it. This picture that you're seeing right here, these are some recent improvements that we made at our White Marsh branch, where we took out all the shelving and we changed up the lighting and we painted and we just refreshed the space. And to see the looks of people's faces as they were walking in into the branch for the first time after these improvements was really rewarding. Knowing that the average cost of a full-scale renovation in today's dollars is around $25 million. And the average cost of brand new construction of a library in today's dollars starts at $40 million. And knowing that we have 11 facilities that need significant improvement, we can't do everything all at once, but making small improvements like we've done this past year really do go a long way in terms of making sure that we have modern libraries until it's time for us to do more full-scale renovations and new construction. Our next big renovation is going to be our Catonsville branch. In fact, tomorrow is going to be its last day of service to the public, and then it'll close for 13 months for a full-scale renovation. It's a 60-year-old building, so it needs new infrastructure, new sprinkler system, new electrical, a new sewage and ejector pump, a new sanitary line, a new HVAC system. None of these things are very sexy or very exciting, but if you want a modern 21st century library, you do need to cover your bases in terms of your infrastructure. And so we're really excited to make these improvements to the facility. In addition, we're going to be having, include a new recording studio. That's going to feature recording and mixing booths. And we're going to have a new dedicated teen space, and we're going to have a remodeled public meeting room. So we're really excited about this renovation. And then after that, next up is going to be our Woodlawn branch. This building was built in 1977. It's around 26,000 square feet. But we were able to take advantage of the fact that there used to be a health department space below the library that has since been vacated. So we have claimed that space for the library. And when we do this renovation, this will also be an expansion to include that space. So it'll be an additional 7,000 square feet. Woodlawn Library is unique because it is physically located next to Woodlawn High School. So every day after school, we typically see about 100 to 150 teens at the library every day. And in addition, there's also dual enrollment going on. So during the day when school is in session, we often see a lot of those dual enrollment students at the library all day using the study rooms, studying, doing their assignments. So it's a great hub for the community. It's a great space for teens, and we're really excited to be able to renovate and expand the building so it can be even more useful to the public. And we are working with an architect that specializes in libraries. Their name is Quinn Evans. They're responsible for some of the 21st century libraries that we're seeing in our region, and they are working on the Woodlawn project. And we're just really excited about having them come on board. I see Delegate Ruth has her hand up.
We'll hold till the end of your
questions.
presentation for questions, if that's okay. We'll let you
Okay,
finish
that's
your
fine.
presentation first.
Okay, that works. We'll get back to you, Delegate Ruth. All right. Essex branch is another one that's in our line of sight. It was built in 1969. It's 20,000 square feet. It's a heavily used building. We have a dedicated social worker that we're hiring for Essex Library that's going to be doing a lot of work there. But we have the opportunity to go for a bigger building located someplace else. And we do have $1 million from the county towards a feasibility and design study. Lansdowne is also in our sites, built in 1966. It's at 5,400 square feet. It is maybe a fourth of the size that it needs to be. So we do have $1 million from the county towards a feasibility and design study. And we are very much looking into building a whole brand new library in a part of Baltimore County that is particularly vulnerable and at risk, and where there are not a whole lot of cultural or educational and recreational opportunities in that part of the county. Towson is another one. It is our flagship library here in Baltimore County in the heart of downtown Towson. It's one of our busiest branches in the system, but it's an oddly shaped building that was built at a time that libraries was very different, and way people use libraries is very different, has significant accessibility issues and challenges. We are very much looking forward to having a brand new building in the heart of downtown Towson. Quickly, I've just got 2 more slides. Randallstown branch is also on the list of branches that we want to look at. It was built in 1967. We've made a lot of improvements throughout the years, but we're really looking forward to doing something else, something more transformational with the building. It is the home base for our West Side social worker. We do a lot of tax prep there. It has the highest computer use system-wide. So there is an opportunity to really raise the bar in terms of what that library is. And in anticipation of an entire revitalization of the Liberty Road corridor, where the Randallstown Library is located, we'd love to see the library as an anchor to all of that community transformation. And last on the list for this morning is our North Point branch. We want to look at this branch to basically give it a full renovation. It was built in 1965. Size-wise, it's okay. It could be a little bit bigger, but this is a very vulnerable community. This is the only branch in our system that has a computer lab. So we do a lot of instruction there on computer literacy and technology literacy. It's a heavily used branch, and so we're really hoping to do something transformational with this facility. And thank you. I think that's my time, but I do see Delegate Ruth still has her hand up, so I'd love to be able to answer her question as well as any other questions that anybody else has.
Sure, and thank you very much for the presentation. I bet everybody's very excited to see all the new possibilities for libraries around the county. Did I hear you say that Randallstown was 202 years old? Is that what I got? Is that correct?
Right. Reisterstown, 200.
Reisterstown, sorry.
Yeah.
200, over 200 years old.
Yes.
That's a startling statistic, really. Also, thanks personally for Lansdowne. I refer to that somewhat colloquially as the shoebox library. If you listen to the square footage, it's less than some of the ones you're adding to the others. So glad that's on the list. We have a handful of questions because people like to talk about libraries. So let's go to Delegate Ruth first, please.
Thank you so much, and I apologize for throwing off your presentation. I was just trying to get in the queue for afterwards. But thank you so much for being here and for all your work. It's, I've lived in Baltimore County for 34 years and have spent so much time over the years in the various branches of the library, and it's just so exciting to see all this work being done, and and definitely much needed. My mom at one time worked in Woodlawn Library, so I know the teens have long been, there every day after school. When she worked there, they came as well. And I agree on Lansdowne Library. That is so urgently needed. And so thank you for that. So I just have actually a quick question. Will there be overlap in time between the Woodlawn renovation and the Catonsville renovation, since a number of people would go to both libraries, and one might be the overflow for the other, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we are going to try to do is stagger it. So while the Catonsville Library is closed for renovation, we are going to be doing the design work for Woodlawn Library. And then when Catonsville opens back up again to the public, then it is our hope to close Woodlawn down for their full renovation. So we really try to spread it out so that we're not negatively impacting members of the community. And as you noted, both of those libraries are right next door to each other, so we can't have them closed at the same time.
Perfect. Thank you. And actually, just one other quick question, and I don't know if you have an answer to this, but will there be some plan for the teens from Woodlawn High School during the closure?
Yeah, that's part of our plan, is to figure out how to continue to engage with the community if the library is closed. And we make those decisions on a case-by-case basis because every community is different. So in some cases, we might bring the bookmobile around more often. In some cases, we might open up like a mini satellite location where we're providing basic services. Or we may also partner with neighboring institutions to see if we can offer library services on a temporary basis in some of those places. So we do try to figure out what is going to be in the best needs of the community, and how do we keep serving the community when the library is closed, and how do we keep people engaged in the time period that the library is closed. Great question.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Good question, Delegate. I think too, if you drill down, Arbutus has sort of made an informal annex, holds and things like that people make at Catonsville will be transferred to Arbutus. It's just a little closer than Woodlawn to that branch, so it makes a lot of sense. Question from Delegate Bhandari, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Sonia, for your wonderful leadership. Thank you for highlighting the aging building and technology infrastructure. I know they are posing the challenges for the library, and thank you for maintaining so many libraries, including White Marsh in our district. And I wonder, as the needs and interests of the library users evolve, the library must adapt to meet these challenging demands. So do you have any ideas in the pipeline? There is a technological divide because of the coronavirus and so many things, like how we could support you.
That's a great question, Delegate Bhandari. What we're seeing is that people continue to use libraries, but they just use us in different ways than they might have in previous years or in generations past. So what we're seeing now is that people are using libraries as a place to gather. They need a space to telework, or they need a space to do their schooling online. They need access to the internet. They need access to Wi-Fi. They just need spaces that are conducive for all of those activities, which is different from when I first got into libraries. People use libraries a little bit differently. And so our challenge is to be able to continue to identify what those needs are, and to be able to adapt and adjust to be able to accommodate those needs. Our community is evolving, and so therefore libraries need to evolve. The support that I would ask from all of you is the same support that you guys have continually given, is to just keep us in mind, whenever, particularly when it's time to make decisions about how to allocate resources. Don't forget the libraries. Baltimore County Public Library is just one library out of 24 library systems in Baltimore County. all of us have significant capital needs. And currently, thanks to Senator Washington, there's Bill SB 501 that's going through right now, the legislative process that would give additional capital funding for public libraries in the state. So your support towards that would be incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I read the list rather quickly on the floor the other day, but you can look it up. There's a tremendous list of things that libraries do. Please, by the way, also that Lansdowne is close to Lansdowne High. That changes things a little. Delegate Pastor, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you do and all of the gifts that each library, old, small, whatever, give our communities. They certainly are integral parts of the community. So rather than a question, I really want to just say something about the Pikesville Library. I'm on the Pikesville Armory Foundation board, and I just would like us to have an opportunity to speak and to talk about your vision for that Pikesville Library and anything in terms of the relationship with the foundation board that I can support or help in terms of making all of those moving parts. And you know that there are many, and I know you've had conversations with us and individuals, but I'd like the two of us to have an opportunity to talk so that I get a clear view of your vision and how I can be supportive of all that we're trying to do in that area. But again, thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Delegate. And yes, I look forward to following up with you and having that conversation about Pikesville and the Armory and where we go from here. But we've been having those conversations, and I look forward to keep engaging on that subject.
Thank you, Delegate Pastor, and thank you for your answer. Delegate Long, question.
Thank you. I know you mentioned the North Point Library about looking at it, doing some expansions. I'd like to bring it to your attention. Right across the street, we have the North Point Government Center. Would be a great place to have a new library. Love to see it there. I know the community would be tickled pink. So just keep that in the back of your toolbox, and we'd be glad to help you out any way we can. But it's right directly across the street, the old Government Center. Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion. You are the second person to have suggested that site to me this week. So it is 100% on my radar, and we will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you for drawing that to our attention, Delegate Long. Delegate Naraki, a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Really had also a great opportunity to sit down with some of your talented library staff earlier this week in Annapolis. It was great. They gave an awesome presentation. Wanted to give you that feedback as well of the great work that they're doing. This is maybe a little bit of a technical question, so I'm not necessarily expecting you to know this right off the top of your head, but maybe if you could get back to me with it. Delegate Schlegel and I are really engaged with our council members, Councilman Marks and Councilman Ertel on the east side of the county, looking to identify land for a new library in that part of the county, somewhere in the Essex Middle River area. I wasn't sure if you know or if you might be able to find out guidelines in terms of if there's a size constraint that a library generally needs or not. With schools, there are generally like acreage requirements for elementary, middle, and high schools. So I wasn't sure if that existed inside of the library system. And if not, if there are any general guidelines that could be helpful for us as we work with our county partners to try to move a project forward.
Yeah, we're actively looking for space for a new Essex library, and we've identified two potential possibilities. And the goal is for us is to build a building that's 45,000 square feet, which is double the current size in Essex. And so in terms of acreage, I'm a librarian, not an engineer, so I don't know. I don't know exactly how much acreage we need, but we do work with our partners in the county to help us identify what's the right amount of acreage and the right size. And typically whenever we engage in the process, there's always a design and feasibility study, and that's part of it, figuring out, how much building can a piece of land sustain, and what are the implications on environmental and traffic and all of that. So with the new Essex Library, all of those factors will be considered.
Understood. But I guess then, if I'm understanding you correctly, to the best of your knowledge, there's not so when you build an elementary school, for instance, they're looking, say, for 25 acres for the school. There's not necessarily that in code or regulation somewhere where you have to have a certain number of acreage for a library. It's based upon the need of the facility is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some code in like Baltimore County code that kind of lays out, what those standards are. I am not intimately aware, but I do work with the experts in the county so that they can help guide the process so that we end up with an appropriate sized piece of land for any construction project.
If possible, would your office be able to get that information to Delegate Schlega and I?
Absolutely. Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Keep up the great work. Y'all are doing an awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Delegate Forbes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for being here this morning. I think I speak for all my colleagues in saying that we're so fortunate to have you in Baltimore County. We appreciate your work and your vision, and moreover, the ability to communicate your vision to us. I can't say enough nice things about you. Would you share with my colleagues some of the accessibility issues of the Towson branch? I have a constituent who shared with me that she has to be taken. She is mobility impaired, and she has to be taken by staff members through staff offices to get to certain parts of the building so she has to be escorted to get to where she needs to go because of where the elevators are and things like that. So if you could just enlighten them some on some of the problems we have there. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Towson is it's a strange building. It's built in that brutalist architectural style. And there's significant accessibility issues with the building. So problem number one, so if you walk in at the ground level, the library is actually on the 3rd floor of the building. And so you have to go up this long winding ramp to go all the way up from the ground floor up to the 3rd floor to take you into the library. So if you're a mom pushing a stroller, if you have mobility issues, if you're in a wheelchair, if you're in a walker, it's really challenging, almost impossible for you to make it all the way up to the very top unassisted. So if you're coming in at the ground floor, you can ring a buzzer and staff will come down and escort you to back of the house where we do have an elevator, but that's only accessible with a staff badge. It's not open to the public. And then that's how you can ride the elevator to get up into the branch. And that's a problem because everybody deserves to be able to access their public library, and they should be able to do so with dignity. You shouldn't have to ask for help to get into the building. And so that's one of the issues that we're really looking forward to being able to rectify with the new Towson library. Another issue is that it's the only library building in Baltimore County where you have to pay to park. And so we do get discounted parking through the Baltimore County Revenue Authority, but it might be cost prohibitive for you to park. And so what we hear from some customers is that they will go to other libraries where they don't have to pay to park. And that, I would like for people to be able to use the library that they want to use, not the library that might be cheaper for them to use because they don't have to pay to park. So that's one of the other issues that we're hoping to rectify with the new Towson Library building.
Thank you.
Good answer. Accessible, but not easily accessible. And so it's a good idea for a project there. For our last question, we're gonna have Delegate Phillips, please.
Good morning, and thank you for this
morning.
presentation. I've not had an opportunity to engage with you directly, but I am very appreciative of the presentation that you provided this morning. Randallstown is a community that we are focused on. Economic development and community revitalization, which you mentioned, are both concerns of the community and a focus for the county executive's administration. and quite frankly, a personal focus for me. Can you share your thoughts on how a renovation or new design might address those concerns, and how the library, and has the library considered kind of commercial partnerships or programming that might be supportive to economic development and community revitalization as you kind of rethink the role of a library in the community?
Yeah, it's a great question, Delegate Phillips. Libraries are destination places. They're anchors. They tend to stabilize a community, and oftentimes people make decisions on where they want to live based on where the local public library is. And libraries are often drivers of the local economic engine, right? And so we not only do we assist job seekers, but we also assist job creators through all of our resources that we offer towards small business owners and entrepreneurs. For example, we offer a very successful entrepreneur academy where we teach people the nuts and bolts of starting their own business and being a successful entrepreneur. All the things that you don't know about when you get into starting a new business, like taxes and marketing and how to do a business plan and all of that. And so those are some of the resources that we typically offer at Randallstown, at many of our library locations. And so having a facility that can accommodate all of those uses, I think, is going to be better for the entire corridor. And so what we see in a lot of successful library projects around the country is that when a library is invested in, it becomes kind of like the focal point for a lot of development and improvements that happen around in the community. And so we would love to be able to see the Randallstown Library be that focal point for any future redevelopment and revitalization that's going to happen on the Liberty Road corridor. To answer your second question about corporate partnerships, that's not something that we do extensively, but we're open to partnering with anybody and working with anybody that can help us, and we're willing to partner with anybody that we could be of service to as well. So we will keep that option on the table, certainly.
No, thank you. I will point out that we've had a number of presentations in delegation, and you broke the record for the number of people who wanted to talk to you today. I think everybody wants a library, everybody wants a bigger library, everybody wants a better library. You have a commodity that we're all interested in, and there's pressure for you to do a lot of things. We all have our community interests. So thank you. I think you acquitted yourself nicely with the questions answered. People have an idea of what's going on. I'll give you the floor for a parting remark if you'd like, and then I think we'll move on to business.
Well, thank you again for your time this morning. Thank you again for hosting us and allowing us to come visit with you this week during Maryland Library Legislative Week. Libraries are integral to the quality of life for any community. And so I just ask you to continue to support us and to continue to keep us in mind. And thank you for all that you guys are doing in service to Baltimore County residents. Thank you.
We appreciate your time this morning, and we appreciate your efforts overall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay and watch the fun, but I bet you have other things to do. So with that, we're going to move on to our business. We're going to start off with bill hearings this morning. The first bill that is up for a hearing is House Bill 1096. This is Delegate Naraki's bill, property tax exemption, real property owned by fire company or rescue squad. I think we have a request from Delegate Naraki, but I'll give him the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Yes, Mr. Chair, if it pleases you and the committee, if possible, I would request for a 1 week extension until next Friday. I'm just working out some issues with the bill that I think will make it an even stronger bill to bring to the delegation. So if it pleases you and the committee, I would respectfully request that 1 week extension.
Thank you. And I'd be surprised if there was an objection, but we have a policy that we try to get you ready the first time. So it's nice of you to make the request. Without objection, we will delay the hearing on this bill for 1 week. I don't see any hands going up. So Delegate Naraki, we'll look forward to hearing your bill next week.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The next bill on the list is House Bill 1111. You got all ones in that. I don't know how you lined that up, Delegate Phelps, but that's nice work. this is Baltimore County Insurance Certificates of Guarantee for County Bond Requirements. And we have a couple of people on board, but we're going to let the good sponsor go first.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the time this morning. This will be my first bill to share with the delegation. This bill is actually a change in the present law that brings Baltimore County's requirements for certificates of guarantee in line with a number of other counties who've enacted a similar provision in their insurance law, namely Calvert, Charles, Howard, Prince George's, Montgomery, St. Mary's, and Washington counties. As of this morning, I understand Baltimore City delegation is also reviewing similar legislation. It allows for certificates of guarantee issued by nonprofit associations or other wholly owned subsidiaries to be honored in Baltimore County. These associations would issue these certificates for the purpose of satisfying the county bond request or other bond requirements. Like these counties as I mentioned, Baltimore would be allowed, but not required to, under this article, accept certificates of guarantee. There's no mandatory requirement to honor these certificates by the county. So what is the rationale and why would we do this? The county often requires bonding for contractors to participate in county contracts. The Maryland Building Industry Association actually suggested this bill and asked for the county delegation support for this bill. This would allow organizations like the Maryland Building Industry Association to provide certificates of guarantees for its members, lowering the cost of projects for contractors and ultimately for the public by reducing the cost associated with securing a bond. I should note that the county has taken no position on this bill, either for or against, but it has reviewed it and has not indicated any resistance to this bill going forward. I want to thank the delegation chair, because originally it was brought to him, for allowing me to review and to sponsor this bill. I should note that as an advocate, which I do every day for small and minority-owned businesses, I see allowing companies to obtain certificates of guarantee versus a bond as a plus, because it reduces their barrier to entry into government contracting. I know we have Bob Inton on the line, who I've spoken to about this particular piece of legislation. And I would offer up an opportunity for Bob to say a few words if he would like.
Yes, thank you. So we have three people. One is going to serve as a witness, I think, Bob Benton, who advocates for the Maryland building industry. And then we have a couple of members from there if there are questions that need to be answered. So with witnesses, Mr. Benton, 2 minutes. So give us a good 2 minutes here, please.
I will, and I'll be brief. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Delegate Phillips for your interest in this issue. This program has been in effect since 1988. And as the program has grown, it has expanded to other counties. As the sponsor said, it is strictly optional, provides another means to satisfy bonding requirements. There's never been any hint of a problem with this program in all the years it's been in effect, and in the counties it's been in effect. The bill was heard in the Baltimore City delegation, sponsored by Delegate Smith, and they went ahead and voted the bill out unanimously in the Baltimore City delegation this morning. We'd asked for the county members to please support this bill. It's critical to maintain affordable housing in these jurisdictions, that we do everything we can in an appropriate fashion to lower costs. This will lower costs for buyers, will lower costs for contractors, particularly small contractors that still have to put up a bond. Once again, it's not mandatory. The county decides whether and when and where they want to use this program. So we'd ask for a favorable report out of the delegation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and good timing. You only used 75% of your time there. Well done. We have with us also, just as questions come now, we have Lori Graff, who is the president of the Maryland Building Industry Association, and Scott Nicholson, who is a member of that association and also is with Sandy Spring Bank. And so they'll be here to answer questions. And I see we have one. We'll see if we need their expertise. Delegate Cardin.
Thank you. Just wondering, I guess, Bob, this is probably for you. Can you describe what a certificate of guarantee is, how it differentiates from typical bond guarantees?
I think the only difference is that it's issued by a corporation, if you will, a development guarantee group, a corporation, which is a subsidiary of the Maryland Building Industry Association, as opposed to coming from an insurance company. So because of that, the cost is lower, and it's supported by the builders in each jurisdiction. So for Baltimore County members, we believe that this will help to facilitate affordable housing in your district. As I say, it's just been it started in 1988. It's been a gradual growth from county to county to county. And the two priority counties to expand to this year are Baltimore City, Baltimore County. We think it'll help affordable housing.
Great. Thank you. It's helpful. Great.
And thank you for the question, Delegate Cardin. Thank you for the answer. Look at that, Mr. Ent. You didn't even need your expert help on the side there. Well done. Are there any other questions on this bill, or any other? All right, then we'll have the subcommittee take this bill up, and we will move forward to our next bill hearing, that closes the hearing on House Bill 1111. And now we'll move to House Bill 1171, Baltimore County Speed Monitoring Systems, Residential Districts. This is a bill brought forward by Delegate Guyton. Delegate Guyton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, wonderful colleagues on the Baltimore County delegation. I come before you this morning to ask for your favorable support of House Bill 1171, also a good number. This bill simply transfers the authority to decide when and where speed monitoring devices, and we usually refer to them as speed cameras, can be placed in residential areas in Baltimore County. So currently, for the newer members, Baltimore County has to bring expansion or change in the placement of speed cameras to the state legislature for statutory approval. So this bill enables Baltimore County government to authorize speed cameras without the consent or intervention of the General Assembly. If they choose to do so, it's enabling to protect the safety of our constituents. Montgomery County and Prince George's County have already made these changes. They passed these bills last year, and other counties are following to provide more local control in these decisions. So this bill is being supported by over 42 community associations in all of our districts, because speed cameras really do work to slow people down and make our communities safer. So I did ask Justin to just put up that list, if he could, of community associations. If you have screen sharing abilities there. Right, so there's somebody in all of our districts, and these folks represent a lot of our constituents who are really behind this change in authority. I am also going to ask you if you could, just to show an example of how speed cameras really do slow people down. You have a couple of maps to throw up there. Whichever one you have first is fine. What you're seeing on the next slide that hopefully we'll get. Perfect. So this is on Middle River Road, right? In front of Middle River Middle School. And all of these blue dots are actual infractions for speeding that have happened. And you can see on all of these slides that right in front of the star, which is where the speed cameras are placed, there is a huge decrease in speeding infractions, right? As soon as people are out of that range, and I'm pointing at it like you can see me, but as soon as people are out of that range, you can see that the people speed up and start getting tickets again. So they really work. Here's another example on Trap Road in Dundalk, where there are actually no tickets right in front of that speed camera. But as soon as you get out of range, people start speeding crazily again. What's the next one there? I just have a couple of these in our different districts. This one's in my district, Kenilworth Avenue. And look, right where the speed camera is, which is in front of Carver High School, no infractions, but all around that area, speeding is a huge problem. And then I think we have one more. Right, so this one's in Lansdowne. You can see the same effect. A lot of out of control speeding all around the speed camera, but not right in front of it. So this demonstrates the effect that these speed cameras really do have in changing behavior of drivers who are dangerous to our communities. So I'm going to turn this hearing over to my panel to make the case for this change in statute if I have been unable to do so. And I request a favorable report on House Bill 1171. Thanks so much.
And thank you, Delegate Guyton. I see a number of questions. We're going to go ahead and let the witnesses testify first, and then if the questions apply to either the sponsor or the panel, they can answer as they see fit. So I want to remind the witnesses that we have 2 minutes to testify. We're going to go in the order that they signed up. And so first I have Jeffrey Myers. Jeffrey Myers represents the Pot Spring Community Association. Mr. Myers, if you would give us 2 minutes, please.
Yes, thank you for your time this morning. I'm Jeff Myers, president of the Pot Spring Community Association in Timonium. The association supports the bill and urges you to vote in its favor. Yesterday, I submitted a hard copy of my written testimony, and I know you don't want to hear me read that aloud, so I'm just going to focus on one part of the important stuff that I mentioned in the written testimony, and that's the data that's out there that supports this bill. Montgomery County has had this ability to place speed cameras in residential zones since 2007. In 2012, it began to use the cameras in what's called a corridor approach. They don't keep the cameras in one location permanently. They move them around up and down a designated corridor. A study was then conducted to evaluate the effectiveness of the program on travel speeds, public sentiment, and crashes. The study evaluated over 7 years of data and used nearby counties in Virginia as controls. The study found that the speed camera program was associated with a 62% reduction in the likelihood that a vehicle was traveling more than 10 miles per hour above the speed limit. There was a 39% reduction in the likelihood that a crash resulted in an incapacitating or fatal injury. And a survey of drivers in Montgomery County found that 95% of them were aware of the program and 62% of them favored the program, even though they or a friend of theirs had received a ticket from one of the speed cameras. So while people can get a little hot under the collar about this issue, the objective data demonstrates that it makes sense. Simply put, we need the camera program because we cannot afford the number of police officers that would be needed to enforce the speed limits on our residential roads throughout the county. We ask for a favorable report on this bill. Thank you.
And I thank you. Next, we have Heather Patty from the White Marsh Convention. I think it's Convention and Community Association, White Marsh.
Hi, good morning. My name is Heather Patty, and I represent the White Marsh Cowington Community Association. We represent about 2,500 residents in northeastern Baltimore County, and I am speaking in support of this bill. Originally, I have always been very opposed to speed cameras, basically because you don't have the right to speak with an officer, but in recent years, I have become a proponent, and I was surprised because I did a survey of my community just to see kind of a feel of the residents. And I was very surprised because it came back 3-1 in favor of speed cameras in residential areas. Basically for 3 main reasons. One, because there obviously is a significant staffing issue in Baltimore County with police. We're about 200 officers down. So there is basically, at least in our area, no traffic enforcement happening. Many residents are reporting that speed bumps are ineffective in their areas, that they only slow down the people that are driving cautiously anyway, that a lot of people speed over them anyway, and that they do damage to their vehicles. Personally, I believe that speed cameras might actually prevent the need for these costly traffic circles that seem to be needed everywhere, because as Delegate Guyton said, that they actually seem to be slowing traffic down. So I just wanted to read, I was going to read a few of the residents' comments, but I didn't know we only had 2 minutes. So this was a really good comment that someone left. They said, briefly, speed bumps penalize every driver, whereas cameras only penalize the offenders. It is wrong to penalize everyone during every trip they make for the next 10 years. The fire department does not like speed bumps. Fire trucks and EMS ambulances must slow down dramatically at speed bumps. This is not a good thing. For fire, minutes matter, and for medical emergencies, seconds count. Speed cameras are an excellent deterrent and fine only those who are in violation. So,
Ms. Patty, if you could summarize, please.
I'm going to do that right now. So in White Marsh, we had a resident killed getting mail out of her mailbox in 2018. And in Lutherville, a grandmother and her granddaughter were killed.
I'm going to ask you, you're over 2 minutes. And if you could just
I'm
summarize, we get it. Thank you very much.
So we support this bill to allow speed cameras.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm sorry you weren't made aware of the 2 minutes.
That's fine. I'm sorry if I went over.
That's no worry. It's a guideline. We work the best we can within it. Next, we have Eric Rockwell. He's speaking for himself. He is the vice president of the Timonium Community Council, but he is speaking for himself. Mr. Rockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the delegation. Just to put a couple points on information already disseminated, Mr. Myers spoke about some of those statistics that demonstrate that in Montgomery County, speeds were reduced after this law was implemented. That study was conducted by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety based in Arlington, Virginia. I would only add that communities throughout the greater Timonium area have seen a problem with speed, particularly proliferate over the last 10 years or so. As the lady just before me mentioned, we lost a grandmother and grandchild who were walking on a public sidewalk due to speed and some other contributing factors from a driver who was impaired. We've had a situation on Pot Spring Road where a vehicle left the roadway, ended up in someone's rear yard. Heaven forbid that the vehicle would have gone a little further, would have crashed into the house. Again, I would urge the delegation to support this bill and thank you for the time.
And I thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we have Susan Williams from the Pine Ridge Association. 2 minutes, please.
Yes, I'm the co-president of the Pine Ridge Association, which is in the Pikesville area. We have a particular problem on Old Court Road between Reisterstown and the metro station. We're graciously asking for you to support this legislation because it works. It reduces the need for our valuable police officers to be monitoring traffic when they could be doing something else. And I have a professional background in planning and transportation. Most of the roads where these people are speeding are designed as collectors, which carry more traffic and may be designed as a wider street. They are usually posted for 35 to 40 miles an hour, and people are generally going 50 to 60 on them. The speed is important to keep in check because if you read most traffic safety manuals, 37.5 miles an hour is the breaking point between where you get relatively minor injuries and major injuries or death of a pedestrian. So keeping these speeds down to where they're supposed to be at 35 or 40 is really critical to public safety. Thank you very much.
And thank you. I appreciate your brevity. Finally, we have Jason Taylor from the Marymount Neighborhood Improvement Association. Mr. Taylor.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this subject. Appreciate Delegate Guyton for the sponsorship of this bill, and I hope and Adrian Jones as well. I'm from District 10 from Marymount Neighborhood Improvement Association, and it's right off of Liberty Road. And Liberty Road, no, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is a mess as far as speeding and as far as traffic is concerned right now. There's a serious safety issue with the neighborhoods that are adjacent to Liberty Road, like Marymount, because drivers actually cut through our neighborhood to cut through to go to Roland Road, and Liberty Road is backed up. And some of these drivers are going in excess of speeds of 60+ miles per hour in residential neighborhoods with our children and our residents and our dogs and pets walking through the neighborhoods. And the residents are very concerned about this. We've tried to get speed bumps, but we don't qualify. Like many neighborhoods don't qualify because they don't get the consistent traffic. And we may get that Saturday traffic when the roads are backed up. We don't get that consistent traffic enough to get the speed humps. So we need this to pass this authorization bill so that we can have the opportunity to at least try to get a speed camera in our neighborhood for a short amount of time or as long as amount of time as it takes to make our neighborhood safe. And we would appreciate your support on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We're going to go to questions. Questions can be directed at the sponsor, but if we feel like there's a community member that can answer because it's relevant to their community, we can go to them as well. We'll start with you, Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Delegate Guyton, thank you for bringing this bill, which I support and I'm a co-sponsor of. Just to confirm, though, that the authorization that Baltimore County would have in being comparable to what Prince George's County and Montgomery County governments have also has the same limitations in that can only get a ticket if you're going 12 miles an hour over the speed limit. Council has to authorize the placement of the speed camera, and there is a 35 and cameras cannot be put on roads that have higher than 35 mile per hour speed limit. Just confirming that all that is correct.
Thank you so much, Delegate Stein. I really appreciate that question. Absolutely. This bill is not changing anything else about that statute. All that it does is shift the authority and enables Baltimore County to make these decisions rather than to come through us every year to make the changes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Stein. Question, Delegate Carden.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Delegate Guyton, for bringing the bill. So first of all, right now, Baltimore County has the authority to choose where to put speed cameras as long as they're within the confines of schools. Is that correct?
Delegate Guyton, you are muted.
You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Delegate Carden. That is true. Am I still muted? I'm sorry.
No, we can hear you now.
Correct. And actually, I had a similar bill last year to try to expand the definition of school zone to include preschool and nursery schools. That did not make it out. It was a statewide bill and not a delegation bill. So yes, currently it's limited to a very prescribed area around schools. This allows the county to move them around wherever the county feels like they're needed.
With just to be fair, though, I mean, even though this is a good safety bill, the county has the ability to be a little bit more generous with their decision because I think they can be within like a half a mile of a school. Is that correct? So there's like very little spaces in the county that are not within a half a mile of a school.
Well, I appreciate your concern, and I think that may be true in your district. It's certainly not true in other parts of the district.
Right, I know. In the inner suburban communities, at least, that could be true. Okay, and then the pictures that you showed, which were very illustrative, but they showed exactly. I think the issue is that people slow down where they know predictably they can know that there's a speed camera. So the camera only works for a very small spot. And so if you have semi-permanent fixtures, it's not going to help, quarter of a mile down the road. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
That is fair to say. And I thank you for bringing up that point. What this bill does is allow the county to be creative and innovative in how they use those. And I think we did hear about one program where the monitoring devices are moved around to combat exactly that issue. So this gives them more leeway in how they do that.
Okay, and then last point. So the police already have a mobile, or I think a couple of mobile radar devices that they can actually put up that create unpredictability and actually can be a little bit more. I mean, that's kind of the model that we might want to look at. Is that fair to say?
I'm not sure exactly. Could you explain that a little bit?
So the police have they can do radar. They have a unit where they can just set up a police car with a mobile radar unit, and they can go anywhere they want with that, and basically get people. In fact, their ability to give tickets far exceeds that $40 fine, and only in a 35-mile or less. But the truth of the matter is that kind of system where you don't know where they are can really be effective at making people realize they need to stop speeding everywhere.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you're right about that. They do have that ability. However, there are many instances where we are actually trying to reduce the interaction between constituents and police officers when it's not necessary. I think Baltimore County Police Department is amazing, but we don't want those conflicts when we don't have to have them. And I think the other great point that some of our speakers have made, which I'm sure we would all agree with, is that our Baltimore County Police are actually really busy right now with other things. Do we want them to be spending their time sitting on the side of the road, shooting radar guns at folks? I don't. I'd like for them to be out keeping it safe in different ways. Thank you.
I will just end with, I used to live, I've recently moved off of a thoroughfare that was a straightaway that was a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and people were going 70 miles an hour. And that's the reason I moved, because it wasn't safe for my children who wanted to play outside. And when I had a police, every so often, a police officer would be there with radar, and it was fantastic. I loved it, and I think that the community loved it because of that. That being said, if this program does go into effect, we should encourage the county to figure out ways to not have it be predictable, so that we get people slowing down everywhere as opposed to just around a radar machine.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's a great idea. I do want to point out, if it's okay, Mr. Chair, that we're not debating whether or not we should or should not have speed monitoring devices. They are legal. What we are debating is who makes the decision when they can be expanded or moved around. This bill only changes that authority from us to the county council and to the county,
Right, but the county would then be able to decide whether to take it outside of school zones. That's what this is about. Let's
okay.
be clear about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are drilling down a little bit, but thank you for the clarification, Delegate Guyton, on that. And thank you for the questions, Delegate Cardin. Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Delegate Guyton, how did you know that I drive so cautiously near my house around Middle River Middle School and Victory Villa Elementary School? I was chuckling a little bit when I saw those schools come up first on the list there. I just have a couple questions, and maybe it's because I'm feeling exceedingly cautious about this topic after some hearings that we had yesterday at our committee, but I wanted some points of clarification. So with respect to the cameras, we're only talking about speed cameras, correct, in this bill, and not with respect to placing cameras on stop signs or anywhere else that someone might have an idea to place a camera.
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay.
And I was part of that hearing as well.
No, I know you are. I'm just, that's why I'm asking for some clarification. So just two other points of clarification, Mr. Chair, if possible. This would not allow the county authority to institute any sort of aggressive or radical fee structures that would allow someone to look into your income taxes and things like that to adjust fines. Is that correct also?
That is correct. This would not allow that. This does not authorize that.
Okay. And then my other question would be, I assume that all the normal monitoring of these citations still exist here in terms of the review process, who's looking at the fines and if someone actually was speeding and things like that as well?
Absolutely. Everything else stands in effect.
Okay.
I think as a quick follow-up, the fine structure is not variable under this program also, right, Delegate Guyton? Right, okay.
That's correct. Thank you.
Good.
Mr. Chair.
I think that was sort of the question. I wasn't sure we got to it.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. No, I was just trying to help. Delegate Shalega.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate Guyton, so you've assured us that there will be audits. That was, I think, one of Delegate Rocky's questions. I don't see that in the bill. How do we know that to be the case?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. I didn't gather that from Delegate Naraki's question. Audits.
Okay. So audits of the program, you may recall that Baltimore City had just a complete disaster with their speed camera program and had to shut it down. There have been questions about other speed camera programs. So, you know, how do we know that this will be audited to protect motorists from, you know, because this is generally, and maybe you could answer this because I'm making an assumption here. The county hires a company to do this and they get paid per ticket. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
You're muted.
Thank you, Delegate Saleha. You would think I would know how to do this. So the audit requirement, according to Jeff Myers, is part of the statute. That's not printed in this particular bill. So yes, that's already in place. As to your question about the fee structure for the people who send out the tickets, I don't know that answer. Again, I just want to say we're not changing anything at all in the current statute, other than the fact that every time a community association, and you're hearing from a lot of them, and you have heard from a lot of them, want the county to consider a speed camera bill, the county doesn't say that's up to the state, go next year and get a bill passed. That's the piece we're trying to avoid.
Well, except for, you know, it's only roads, thank goodness, under 35 miles an hour. But I would, you know, just want all the members of the delegation to understand that it is my understanding that the speed camera ticket program, the speed camera program is put up for an RFP. A company comes in and they do the monitoring and ticketing, and they get paid by how many tickets they collect. So, you know, that's why the audit feature is in there. But my last question would be this. So would you be amenable to putting some kind of some language in the bill to ensure that people whose cars are stolen, they have a stolen license plate, that these speed camera tickets have to be checked against that? I will tell you that my mother-in-law's car was stolen, and I can't tell you how many hours I spent on her behalf straightening out speed camera tickets from Montgomery County to Baltimore County, you know, easy pass fines across the Bay Bridge, which is not part of this bill. But, you know, this is a problem, not just, you know, isolated to me, and car theft is a problem. So it would be good, because these companies are private companies, to be able to ensure that, you know, with this increased number of tickets, which I don't know how many, but it'll probably be a lot, we're not capturing people who shouldn't be captured.
Thank you. You have a lot of great questions, and I'm sorry I didn't know the answer to the first one, but I do now, because Vice Chair Stein just put it in the chat for me. State law actually prohibits companies from doing what you suggest, which is getting paid per ticket, according to Vice Chair Stein. So that's the answer to the first issue you brought up. The second is a great question, and we have been hearing bills to that effect in ENT this year. So I believe that there's a state bill that's looking at that comparison between cars that may be stolen or have the wrong license tag and the correct owner or driver of the car. So I think that's something that is going to be addressed in another bill.
Oh, that's great. I love to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you both. People are putting things in the chat, but I want to point out this is a public meeting. And so we're going to ask you if you have something to offer, that you ask to be recognized, so that the public can hear the commentary and the answers to the questions as well. We're going to go next to Delegate Grammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a concern that this doesn't actually fix a lot of the problems, especially in my district. I do have a question. I'll explain briefly. So when Baltimore County expanded its program beyond the first 15 cameras, the first camera they put in place was at Eastern Technical High School. I drove past that high school, which is where I live and where I went to school, in the morning, and when school gets out, you're not moving past 10 miles an hour. So, you know, the problem there is that they put it at the top of a hill, and what it actually does is it nails people who might accelerate a little much during the evening. It doesn't actually do anything during school hours. The first example that was cited today was Middle River. I drive that road every single morning driving my son to school.
Delegate Grammer, do you have a question?
Yes, I do, but very
Okay.
briefly.
If you could move to it.
In that example, there are two crossing guards, there are two lights, and there's a left-hand turn into school. So you're not moving on that road. You literally can't speed there. And here's my question. You know, we have so many roads that in my district will have speeding problems, but will never get a speeding camera. And if you look at transportation law, what they advise for those roads is that you need to restructure the road. That's why you hear about suggestions like roundabouts or speed bumps. My question is, what does Baltimore County do with the funding here? Because when the gentleman says for speed bumps, what he's saying is the county doesn't have enough money. They have to find a way to limit the program, and he doesn't qualify because his traffic numbers don't qualify him as one of the top standing roads. So what does Baltimore County do with the funds they get from speed cameras?
Thank you, Delegate Grammer. And I'm going to be honest that I do not know exactly where that money goes. I've been on A&T for 3 weeks, but I'm sure I'll know by the end of the session, and I'll get back to you.
Stand by. Stand by. Excuse me. Delegate Grammer, if you hold on for a second.
Yes.
Maybe we have somebody from the county who can tell us that. I know that Jenny Osa is online, and maybe she'd like to tell us if she knows. There's more likely she'll have an idea, or Amanda Carr.
Sure.
Maybe there. I don't have them on my primary screen here, or maybe we caught them off guard. There's Amanda.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I think Amanda
I kind of caught
may
you off
be
guard. Sorry about that. That's okay.
No worries. I think Amanda may be able to address this.
I do not actually have the exact funding, where the funding goes, but I will get that and send it to the group today.
Suffice it to say, the county collects it. It goes to some county fund.
I believe that it does not put it towards speed bumps. And my final question is, would you be open to an amendment that limited the intake funds to speed bumps so that everybody can get a solution?
Thank you, Delegate Grammer. This bill, I believe that is outside the scope of this bill. So while I don't want to say no to any amendment out loud, obviously this will be, there are subcommittees who can work on that. I don't feel like that is within the scope of this bill. And I also believe that that's very prescriptive on the county, when what we're trying to do right now is just allow them to have another tool in their toolbox along with speed bumps or whatever they deem is best at remedying this problem in our communities. And this is just another one of those. So I think that's outside the scope and a little anti-intuitive for this particular legislation, but that's just my opinion.
And thank you, Delegate Guyton, for that. Hold on. Thank you for that, Delegate Guyton. Delegate Grammer, of course, once this bill comes into our hands, you're welcome to have an amendment drafted and offer it next week or the week after when we get to voting on it. So if you want to chat with some folks about whether that's a good idea or not, I think the sponsor has expressed her opinion. We're going to move on to Delegate, we'll call him Vice Chair Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess this would be a question for the county. Are there any guidelines to where these cameras are put in a particular area and or a community? And I just asked that question because it seems like in other jurisdictions, these cameras are heavily in some communities versus others. So will the county have any guidelines in terms of where these cameras are put?
So the question isn't for the current, because we've established that. So I think the question is, if I understand correctly, has the county discussed where they might place them yet. And either Jen or Amanda, if you'd like to answer for us on that.
Sure, I'll jump in. I know that there have been discussions about this. The nature of them and the extent have not been made public, but I know that we will have policies surrounding it, and I'm sure we would welcome your input.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Vice Chair, right now, the police department utilizes the information they get from a variety of sources to place cameras within like the current parameters, so within a certain distance of school zones. What we do know is that the police department does get additional requests from communities, both those adjacent to schools and others, and that we don't. Well, unfortunately, right now we don't have enough cameras and equipment to cover even the current number of school zones that are authorized.
If I may follow up, Mr. Chair. So, Ms. Iosa, it was the sponsor's testimony that the county would be able to put these anywhere they like. So and that's why I'm asking the question. So they would be outside of school zones is how I take it.
Yes, sir. So my understanding is that under this legislation, the county council would have the ability to determine where they would want to see a camera system deployed. And so it could be outside of the current, I believe, half-mile radius, which is what we're currently restricted to.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I see 3 more hands up, and I think we're going to limit to that. We've had a robust discussion already on this. I will tell you that my crack staff says that there are expenses involved with speed cameras, but the money that remains after expenses for running them and contracting for them, a lot of it goes to forensic services positions and to help fund speed camera, body-worn cameras. So that's initially, I'm sure there's more detailed information, but it gives a sense of the answer to that question. And good work, Katie Malone. Now we come to Delegate Sheila Ruth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Delegate Guyton, for this bill. Speeding is, a huge problem everywhere, including even on my own street, and definitely something that we need to address. I just there's been so many great questions, and I just wanted to I had a couple points relating to a couple of the questions. To Delegate Shalega's point about the contractors sending out the tickets, under the current speed camera law, every ticket has to be signed by law enforcement, even though there's a contractor that's running the program. That was my understanding, is that was part of the agreement when the speed cameras were initially authorized, that law enforcement would have to sign off on those. And to Delegate Grammer's point about the use of the funds, when my committee is the one that authorizes when people come and they want to put a camera in a specific location. And we do usually in those cases like to see that money above cost is being used to address whatever issue is causing the problem at that particular location, although I don't believe that's a part of the law. And I did also want to just echo Delegate Jackson's concerns about equity in placement of these cameras. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll treat that as sort of a question there, Delegate
Oh,
Guyton.
isn't that so?
So maybe Delegate Guyton would like to respond to that, since you're questioning whether they would be equitably done. So we'll
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Delegate Ruth. I always love your questions. I think in response and to both of those questions from you and from Delegate Jackson, I'm just going to reiterate my trust in the county that was already expressed by Ms. Carr, that the county would make appropriate regulations surrounding this. This is really, again, not expanding cameras, not asking to put more in, but giving them the leeway to move them around if they choose to do so, and to decide based on what our communities want in a speedy manner if one needs to be moved around to a different area. So that's really the extent of this bill, but I also trust that they will keep equity in mind and that they will make appropriate regulations for that. So thank you. We have to keep it top of mind. Absolutely.
Thank you, Delegate. Okay, Delegate Long, a question, please.
Hello?
We're here. We're waiting for your question, Delegate Long. Okay, I see he doesn't have his camera on, so I'm assuming he's experiencing some technical difficulties. So we're going to pass. We'll come back to him. Let's go to Delegate Bhandari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question is to Baltimore County government. Do we have an infrastructure to implement this legislation if enacted into law? And what is the county position here?
So thank you for the question, Delegate. So the county has taken no position on this particular bill. I'm not entirely certain what you mean when you say infrastructure. Our police department does have the ability to implement the current law to manage and monitor the cameras, that we currently have. If this law were to pass, then we would have to allocate additional resources to the extent that we could to either deploy additional cameras or to move the existing cameras that we currently have based on decision making that the council would be empowered to make. So there's a lot of what ifs, I think, without knowing what proposals would move before our council, but we would certainly implement the law to the best of our ability based on the council decision making.
Okay, and I see the sponsor would like to augment that answer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Again, I just want to clarify, this bill is not requiring Baltimore County to spend any more money or to put any more cameras anywhere unless they decide to do so. So I just want to make sure that that's very, very clear, that we're trying to be less prescriptive and give them more local control with this legislation.
And to that end, generally, we're always very interested if legislation we're presenting is mandated or enabling, and this would be clearly classified as enabling legislation, which is often quite much more palatable. I see, Delegate Long, your hand is down. But maybe that's a glitch. So I'm going to wait for a second to see if you want to come online and ask your question. I don't know if I have to listen to the Jeopardy tune come to an end before I don't wait any longer, but I don't have him here. So if you do have a question, I hope that you'll be able to ask the sponsor offline when the time comes. Certainly there will be a subcommittee hearing on this, and this bill will be brought back before us for a vote. So there'll be ample time to ask questions and help you make decisions on how you feel about it. Delegate Guyton, thank you. That ends the hearing on House Bill 1171. We now move to voting. And for that, I would recognize the chair of the Education Subcommittee on House Bill 381.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the Delegation Education Subcommittee was unable to meet this week. And so we ask that this bill be moved to a voting session on the next agenda.
So in a similar manner, we will hold action on this bill until next week if there is no objection. Seeing none, that is so ordered. We are almost at the end. We have a little bit of business to clean up here. I have a bit of an update on the subcommittee, or I call it the ad hoc committee on special projects, and the vice chair would like to just let us know some of the progress they're making, because some of them might ultimately end up in an ask. So you need to know what they're thinking about. Go ahead, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So delegation members, just wanted to update you on the work of the ad hoc subcommittee. We've been working very hard these last few meetings. And so I just kind of want to update you on the 3 topics that we're going to focus on, which is the website, social media, and delegation night. starting with the website, unbeknownst to us, we had two diamonds in the rough, or we have two diamonds in the rough on our delegation. Delegates Ruth and McCaskill, who will be actually building the website for us. So we're so glad to have them help us with that. Also, we will be sending out a Google form. You will be receiving a Google form from the delegation email asking for some information that will be put onto your bio on the website. We will also be asking for headshots. So if you don't like the headshot on the MGA website, please make sure you provide a new headshot on that Google form and email. The website domain name will be BaltimoreCountyHouseDelegation.com for those who were wondering. And then once the website is completed, we will have an unveiling to the delegation as a whole for all to see and comment on. And so that takes care of the website. As far as social media goes, we're having Christian Thomas, our former student board member, who will be helping us set that up. We're going to be having a Twitter account and Instagram account as well. And we're going to make sure that we reboot our Facebook account as well, as we would like to see more activity in terms of social media. He will be briefing our subcommittee today with the social media platforms. He's been working on those the past week, so we're excited to see what he has come up with. Also, we're thinking in terms of, we're going to be sending out some guidelines of what kinds of posts we would like to have submitted to be on the social media platforms that will be forthcoming. We're also thinking that we're going to ask members to tag the social media platforms if they want their information or posts to be on the delegation website. That'll make it easier for Justin to be able to review them and accept them so that they could be presented on the social media platforms. Lastly, delegation night. We will not be doing a delegation night this year. We're planning for next year. We are in discussions with the county in terms of a partnership because there's really no spaces we can utilize down here in the complex in Annapolis. We're thinking that the first one could be done back at home in Baltimore County. And again, we're still fleshing out all the details, but we're looking forward to working with Baltimore County administration to have a delegation night back at home. So those are the updates that I have. Do anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr.
I don't
Chair.
see any. It's good work and a couple of really good new initiatives that you're working on that. Nice new visibility for the delegation and kind of, taking up some good stuff. And I thank you for your report. We look forward to further action on all of that. Okay, last piece of business is Delegate Schlegel would like to be recognized. She has an initiative that she would like to offer to the delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate Naraki and I have been working on something. We have a constituent that was with the Maryland State Police and he sustained career-ending injuries in the line of duty. Baltimore County has a property tax credit for disabled law enforcement officers or rescue workers, but that does not include all law enforcement. So we contacted the library to see if we needed to put a bill in, and they said we don't. So the answer for your general edification is that due to the unique charters, Baltimore County and Montgomery counties can adopt property tax credit without the approval of the General Assembly, which of course would not forbid us from putting a bill in to give it a little stronger push. But I thought that, what Delegate Naraki and I are going to do is send a letter to the county executive and the county council and ask that they expand that property tax credit to state police as well for, again, it's narrow disabled law enforcement officers who were, had career-ending injuries. So it won't be a huge fiscal note, but, clearly recognizing that the state police are also, ensuring that Baltimore County residents are safe and secure. I mean, I would entertain opening it up more widely to include MTA police and, other, law enforcement LEAs, but at this point, I think, kind of focusing it towards state police in response to our constituents' very reasonable request would be good. So we will send you a letter, and if any of you would like to sign on, and I spoke with Chair Ebersol, we were kind of like, how do we move this forward? So is that what you wanted me to do, Chair Ebersol, was to just offer it up as a opportunity, or did we want to take it up as a delegation, or what? I can't remember where we left it.
I checked back, and we've really never done that with letters. We've so yes, I'm just going to tell members of the delegation that you, and sounds like Delegate Naraki, will have that, but you also email it, and if they're interested in being part of that initiative or signing on, they should let you know. And I appreciate the thought, really do.
Okay, and just as you know, again, that the, we don't need to always put a bill in for these tax credit expansions. It's interesting to find that the council and the county executive can actually do it without us. So
it's a larger, I'm sorry,
yeah.
It's a larger baseline for the legislature.
So thank you so much.
Right.
And look for a letter. We're going to get that out next week. We'll probably put a deadline of Wednesday to get people who are interested in signing on to that.
Yep.
And supporting disabled law enforcement officers. Thanks so much.
You're most welcome. I don't have, I think, anything else on my list of requests and agenda here. I will point out that Christian Thomas, who's helping out, was a former student member of the board, and now he serves as the intern in our office. And so we're happy to lend his skills, and he seems to have some good ones. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, I would like to declare that this meeting is adjourned at this time. Thank you all very much. See you on the floor in about a half an hour, a little less, right, Madam Speaker?